Well, what's free to you?
What's free to me?
Yeah.
Same thing it is to you. You tell me. It's just a feeling. It's like, how do you tell somebody how it feels to be in love? How are you going to tell anybody who has not been in love how it feels to be in love? You cannot do it to save your life. You can describe things, but you can't tell them. But you know it when it happens.
Can you please introduce yourself and define yourself?
Okay. My name is Jamila Woods, and I'm a singer and a poet from Chicago, Illinois.
Hi, I'm Shea Coulee. I am a multidisciplinary Girl, I'm a drag queen.
Hi, my name is Mykele Deville. I'm an artist, a rapper, a poet. I'm a Pisces, and I'm a dad.
I'm Nicole Rawls, also known as Dr. Nicole Rawls. I'm trained as an anthropologist, astrologer, and an artist.
I am Jenn Freeman. I also navigate this world as Po-Chop.
My name is Morgan Elise Johnson. I am a Black woman, a daughter of Black liberation movements.
Ooh, okay. I am JadeT Perry. I go by JadeT Perry. Most people can call me JadeT Perry, but if they need to shorten it, it can be JTP.
Hi, my name is AYMAR Jean ESCOFFERY. Professionally, folks call me AJ.
I'm Lisa Beasley. Like, I don't have the prescriptive titles for my name anymore. I know most people know me as a comedian. Most people know me as an actor. I know myself as like that nigga. I'm just a person doing the best I can.
I think about my mom with this question. She grew up moving around a lot because her father was in the Navy, in the military. And she has just a very particular way of speaking, and she loves what she loves. Like, she always knew she wanted to be a healer, and she went to traditional school, but kept her intuitive desire to heal through other methods, and always is pursuing different ways to learn about, you know, healing modalities from other cultures, and will travel to places and learn. And I think because I grew up in Chicago, and it's a very segregated city, I was often thinking about, okay, where am I supposed to be? Where am I not supposed to be? And my mom just really doesn't have that. She's just like, I wanna learn that. I'm gonna go there and do it. And I really admire that, the way that she lets her spirit travel and follow what it wants to learn.
Oh, how have I evolved since becoming a mother? Let's see, my daughter is 10. It has made me question the moves I make and why I make them. It has made me more aware of how I am still tied to some of these American ideals through raising her and seeing the path that either the world tries to force me to send her through. For example, I'm not the biggest fan of the educational school system, but she's still a part of it because at one point I didn't know what else to do. It's like, I have to work, I gotta make money, she gotta go to school, and I wasn't in a place in my life where it's like I could buckle down and homeschool. During the pandemic, that was one of the greatest times of my life because she wasn't going to school. She makes me question a lot of like, how am I raising her? Am I raising her in the same paradigm that I'm trying to escape? Or am I gonna raise her in the fully freest version of myself so I could get out of the system the way I really want to?
I got free more recently by becoming a dad. Fatherhood, at the very least for me, has shown me the infinite depth of love and devotion and sacrifice, and how freedom is rediscovery of, you know, moments that made me feel happy that I lost through the grind and the grit of just trying to survive out here. So seeing my son every day allows me to feel more free. I had a father who wasn't necessarily always there. When I needed him there, he wasn't. When I asked him to be there, he couldn't. That felt constrictive, like a constrictive relationship. There's only certain times and points and parts of his mood that I'm allowed access to. And by giving my son my presence, it allows him to feel free to make choices that I never really had the opportunity to make.
I think one of the ways that I practice not getting caught up in hate or negativity that I experience is spending time with the people that reflect back to me the best parts of myself, my community, especially my mother. Like, she has and always will be my biggest cheerleader. And I just love being able to commune with her, to speak with her, talk with her. She always just pours so much positivity into my life. For her, and what she says, her ministry, her purpose on this earth is to love people the way that Christ loved people. She has such a spirit of service, and I think that that has rubbed off on me in many ways, where my love language is acts of service.
Good, smells so good too.
This is nice.
These are the vegan sweet potatoes. Those are.
Every word in that sentence sounds amazing.
And everything else is labeled. We just
This food also helps me feel like Sunday too. We're saying it's like Sunday today. I'm sorry.
I know I want more of this. I'm tripping. I'm acting like.
I love somebody who's honest about their skills. You know what I'm saying? They know where the ceiling is, and that's okay. That's fine.
I'm running out of room. Hand me a little plate.
Give me the double.
I'm gonna be the two-plate. I'm gonna be the two-plate girl.
I'm gonna chill.
So I do need just one little way. Ooh, it smells so good.
Hi, welcome. I don't actually normally say grace, but I've been following the news, and you know, by the time this is released, food costs are gonna be going up. There's a lot of scarcity out there, a lot of people probably going hungry. So as we sit in front of this bounty, I think it's important to express gratitude, not only for the food nourishing, but the nourishing of each other, right, the community. So, you know, you can bow your head and we can thank God or the divine, the Heavenly Father, the Great Mother, the genderless creator, the cosmos, or nature in all of its chaos and order. Thank you for being here. We are here, nourishing each other, and that's beautiful. Yeah. Ashe. And we can eat.
So my thing, you know.
I am the daughter of a preacher. That's been a part of my family and just ministry in general.
When I think about who in my life showed me what it meant to be free, it's also the same group of people who showed me what it means to not be free. And I grew up in the Black church, heavily indoctrinated for the first 18 years of my life. So being in the Black church, that's where I learned the freedom of expression, a place where I could be as loud as I want. But this is also the same place where I was taught restraint and where I couldn't be free. And I started reading way before I went to school, so I would always read ahead. The pastors would always reference Ephesians 6:1, children obey your parents, for this is right. This is one of the only promises of the 10 Commandments that comes with a promise. You treat your parents right, you have a long life. They never read the next verse, which was, fathers, do not exasperate your children. Why are you never mentioning the parents' responsibility to not get on our nerves? And so that really kicked off this curiosity spark in me to read more, study for myself, see what was really going on. Because if you go further, the next one is like, enslaved. I said, what's going on? And how come a woman hasn't been mentioned yet?
I grew up in the Black, charismatic, Pentecostal church. I tend to agree with Zora Neale Hurston when she says the Negro has never been Christian. Because in that Black Pentecostal church, there was things that we was doing, like, you know, the white people was not doing this. And I know for a fact. So, for example, my family was responsible for the drum circle in our church.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? To this day, my mom, who's a minister, to this day, my mom will call me and be like, you know what I learned about today in church? What you learned, girl? Bible numerology.
Okay.
Okay, girl.
A sound spiritual practice needs a strong structural analysis that is culturally situated.
Period.
Right? That's the body, that's the self,
Yes.
ancestors, and land, right?
Yes.
In a different
Yes.
way. Because that's my biggest thing too. Like, for me, the sacred is the mundane. This is sacred right now. Yes. And we have been told that it is progressive and that we are better if we don't know how to take care of this.
I first encountered queerness in the womb. Like, I just came out so queer. It has always been a part of my DNA. One of my ancestors passed it down, if not multiple ancestors. The first time I ever really observed queerness in the world would have to be when my sister Ayana showed me RuPaul's music video to Supermodel of the World. It was a very formative moment for me because I didn't know what a drag queen was. And I just remember seeing RuPaul and even at the tender age of 4 being like, I know that's not a man, I know that's not a woman. I said, but I see myself in that. There was something about that I really connected to, and I feel like my sister knew that as well. That's why she's like, you should watch this.
We're talking about energy connecting, people connecting. I want to talk about sex.
Baby.
You know, and the broader erotic, right? The ways that we connect and our energies and mess with other people. How can we find freedom in the energetic exchange, the broader erotic?
The politics of your bedroom. The power that exists in your bedroom. You really want to fuck up some power structures, fuck it up in your bedroom. Because it's an intimate place where you get to create and negotiate the scenes. And if you don't think you can get to create and negotiate the scenes, reprogram your mind. So that you can know that this is a place of energy, of power, of creation, of imagination. And if your bedroom brings you shame, then ask yourself, what's that about?
I had to deprogram myself from sex because of growing up in church for so many years and the shame associated with it. And the biggest block that when I noticed, I was like, I'm on another side of this conversation, is when I stopped looking at it like a beginning, middle, and end act.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
And it's just like, it's a continuation, never ending, all encompassing all the time. Like, it's not an act, it's all the time.
Yes.
If sex is centered around you, right, as a man, and you are a man, and that is what you've been taught is the pump, pump, pump,
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
And so you think you've done your job. You bulldoze, you're a rhino. You don't care about the communication of sex. As someone who sits in the body that I sit and sits in the orientation in which I sit, one of the toughest deprogrammings of my entire life to realize, like, it ain't about me and what I'm doing and all the shit I learned in high school, all the stuff I heard in this music that was telling me this is how I'm supposed to feel afterwards and before. It humbles you when, I'm always gonna go back here, it really does humble you when you have a kid, when you understand what sex is before that, sex is after that, sex in between that, what that conversation looks like, how to pull yourself out of that equation.
I love sex, I realized. After I hit 40, I was like, I like sex a lot. Bitch. And the first time I squirted, I was like, oh, I'm grown now. I had no idea. I was like, I can do this? Oh my God. I was like, what is going on? I got a whole ass child PhD and now I'm grown, you know? Now I'm grown. Yeah, but it was because it was my first time with a woman, right? Because I came out and I'm like, no, I actually realized I like women a lot, a little too much sometimes. Woo, child. But then also something I realized too, even with that, I told myself this year, I'll only have sex with folks who actually like me. Right? But then I thought I had to think about it, right? Like, why was that such a big revelation? And again, it went back to like thinking about how my body was read as a kid, you know, like, and how, and everything was always wrong, right? So you're too tall, you're too big, you're too loud, so then you contort, you conform, right? And then having a kind of a quote unquote public profile, and I realized they weren't with me, they were with the persona.
Like I've had to recontextualize it myself as kind of shifting it away from just being this physical act to something that's more spiritual. Because similar to what you were saying about it not being a beginning, middle, end, I read Audre Lorde's Uses of the Erotic, and that really opened up a lot for me that, you know, pleasure comes from so many things that are non-sexual, and you can utilize and harness that energy to bring it into the sexual experience. It's kind of like similar to what you're saying, like, you know, I had this big shift in my life going onto this platform and all of a sudden being like this really super hyper visible queer person in a community that really celebrates sexual liberation, right? So you like get out there on the road and you're like, oh, you're like, oh, let me get it. But then you realize, you know, you go through these experiences and you're just like, oh my God, this person is really just only wanting to have sex with the persona of the person that they saw on TV, like not even just like a human being. And that's where it does feel like a form of conquering. And it just was so kind of like soul sucking and draining that I then had to go back and kind of have a stronger vetting process to be like, you know, what type of pleasure do you bring me, like being around you that's like non-sexual? Like how do I feel that beautiful like blossom and like buzz of energy that like helps to just kind of ignite those feelings that make you feel good? Because so many times people have sex and at the end, after it's all said and done, they don't feel good about themselves. They don't leave it feeling good. So it's like you were saying, you're like, why waste my time when I know that I can make myself feel good in a safe space, doing all the moves that I know will work, you know what I'm saying? And I think that I really did have to recognize it as being much more of a sacred act, something that is a lot more erotic versus pornographic, you know? Like that's I want, you know, erotic sexual encounters and understanding that, you know, it takes a very delicate point of view sometimes to be able to cultivate the environment that really helps to facilitate that great, good feeling sex.
Boundaries are necessary for intimacy and connection, right? Your bedroom, there's a door and you don't let everyone in there, right? And that's okay, right? That's a part of freedom is determining like, where is that boundary where I can feel safe and free in intimate space with you?
A day in the life of my dream world. I wake up when I want to. I don't have anyone telling me what time I have to wake up. I would have fresh food that is local to where I live, where I wouldn't have to get on trains and planes and automobiles to have a nice, fresh, farm-raised breakfast, right? Then after that, I would get fly. And I would have people that help me to get fly. And I'll be able to pay the people gobs of money who are helping me to get fly. So hair, makeup, nails, all of these different things. Now, I'm queer, I'm poly, and I'm also a hoe. So my lovers would be coming too during the day. So I would have my lover, after I got fly, my lovers would come, we'd go do something fun, and of course, I'm an artist. So at the end of the day, I would read the books that I want to read and just create. And then I would go to bed when I'm ready to go to bed, regardless of what has to happen the next day. That would be the food, the loving, the laughing, the joy, the music, all of that to me is freedom. And so that's a day in my ideal world. I am a disability justice organizer, and I can speak from that lens, but I think I would rather speak from the lens of being a human being who likes to do fun things. When you want to go somewhere, you have to ask yourself, okay, how am I going to get there? You can take a car, you can take a train. If you don't have a car and you need to get on the train, and you realize, oh, the train has 30 steps and I can do about 4, then how many opportunities are limited to you and that's just recreation? right? So now we're thinking about we're living in a capitalist society where most of us have to work if we're going to eat, right? And so then what does that might be 30 steps to someone else, but that's the reason why someone else can't work, right? That's the reason why someone else is isolated or does not have the opportunities for just letting loose and letting go and having fun. What is able-bodied in a society that is inherently disabling? Who does this space allow in here to begin with? And who does it exclude to begin with?
So what I teach in House of the Lord in our mainly introductory burlesque and drag classes is, I think the first thing that I'm trying to get people to do and be is to be present. I think we live in an existence with our devices to be disembodied, to be outside of ourselves and to allow external factors to dictate how we move and how we feel. And so just that act, child, we work hard. You know, most of the sessions are 4 weeks, an hour long. And I think the biggest thing that I try to get is just that. Like, can you be present? Can you sit with yourself? Can you now move in a way that feels right to you? And it's not gonna look like how I'm doing it. We all have our own independent, individual compass inside of us that guides us. And I think trying to get that connection going is the main thing that we focus on. And then from there, you know, we learn the form of undressing or perhaps embodying masculinity.
Because I love that you included that in talking about play. I really have been practicing to find my liberation through rest because I feel like Black people were not conditioned to understand and really cherish rest because we get labeled as being lazy if we're not constantly working, especially in a production-driven society where we always have to be putting out and producing more and more and more. I've really just been like, you know what, baby, I am gonna lay in bed today and I'm not gonna do the laundry and it's gonna be okay, I'm gonna pick it up tomorrow. Yep. You know, like give yourself the time to like reset and rest, you know?
And that's some work because then it's like, well, do I listen? Do I take it seriously? Do I only think I'm supposed to only do it for a day and then I gotta go back to do it? You know what I'm saying? Like I think if we can take back even work and understand that like we are doing work when we take back the body, like, then what do we create? Because I think about freedom for me, it's like I've been shaking my ass more than I ever did before either, too. You know what I mean? Like it's been really like freedom has been on the dance floor, like, and I haven't done that since my 20s, and then the whole 30s. You know, I forgot that I could move, and the next thing I was at a house set. In the afternoon, I love house music. Like I love house, and I forgot my feet can move that way. You know, I forgot that I knew some of them. I was like, oh, bitch, you can do this? Okay. It took about 2 hours of warming up.
That's like, honestly, as a form of freedom, there's sometimes where I'm just in my kitchen and I'm just making my coffee, and sometimes I just start throwing it back.
Hey.
And there's freedom in that, because I'm like, you know what, I just woke up, but you know what? Some days it's like you wake up, I think, you know, my mom says her prayers and she says, thank you, Lord, for waking me up another day. And I'm just over there being like, thank you, Lord, that I can throw this ass all day.
How did I get there? How do I get from praise dancing between the pews of Pleasant Hill Missionary Baptist Church to stripping for strangers and lip syncing for dollars? At the core of it, for praise dancing, it is an exchange. It's an exchange between me, the congregation, and the spiritual world. So really, it feels like to me a very short jump. But I think when I came to Chicago, I really had to face myself for the first time. When I say that, I mean I had to deal with my queerness. I had to deal with my identity for the first time without parental guidance, without the church. And I think from there, I quickly realized that Christianity wasn't for me. And so I went through a journey. And I found the Lord. And by the Lord, I mean Audre Lorde. And I think through her, I learned about the erotic. Her notion of the erotic as this creative source, this way of being empowered, this way of connecting, this way of willing my full self into the present moment and sharing out from a place that is the most deepest and truest for me. And I think for me, that led me to like performance in another way. And then I think also there was something about the erotic that felt holy and sacred to me, that much like the Holy Ghost, the erotic is a sacred Holy Spirit that can move through me and that can, yeah, shift a room, shift a vibe. Definitely felt like another micro moment of knowing some form of freedom.
There's a huge conversation about AI and the ethics of AI, the sustainability of AI, these things that are like encroaching upon our world, and it feels like we don't really have a lot of control of how this, this is just like they tell us it's just the progression of, the state of technology, and we should just get down with it even if it's like draining our environment. AI, astrology, these things are the tools that we use. Is it the people who use, or when we talk about ethics and liberation, these are like morality words. These are words that are attributed to humans and consciousness and spirit and wrong and right and things like that. And when we apply those to not real things like government, like tools, like actual machinery, are we talking about the human beings behind it? Like when you are reading my chart, am I hearing your morality bleeding into what you see? Are we talking about the people that use the technology when we talk about liberation and how we use technologies in order to get free? When we talk about the ethics of technology, are we just talking about the ethics of ourselves and not really the tool itself? Is the tool evil, or is the people who are utilizing those tools to oppress evil? What I've sacrificed is ultimately the currency that they want you to believe is more valuable than money, which is exposure. I've sacrificed visibility in order to divest from oppressive systems, removing my music from Spotify and other platforms that I don't necessarily agree with. I don't want my music being the fodder for bombs around the world. I don't think it's always about sacrifice in order to divest.
I mean, there's so many changes that could be made, but one that I'm really passionate about is the Living Wage for Musicians Act. That's just about artists getting paid for the music that is streamed. Most platforms like Spotify, Apple Music pay like a fraction of a cent. There's a musicians union, UMA is the acronym, and they have a calculator where you can put in like what you would make if this law was passed. And it could be life-changing just to have revenue to rely on to live, so that you can think more creatively versus like, okay, I have to accept these things because I have to pay my rent.
I co-founded the TRiiBE in 2017 with Tiffany Walden, who is my best friend. I met her at Northwestern University, and it really started out with a couple of questions that we had about the role of mainstream media in the shaping of Black narratives and the Black experience, specifically here in Chicago. For us, it's about thinking about what is success for us? What is a successful metric? Is it page views? Is it like money? What's driving our decision making? So for us, we really had to restructure even the thought process around what a media company does and who they do it for and what type of output and income, all of those metrics, we had to really challenge all of that and say, for us, it's not about the viral story. This has to be a long-term dedication to Black liberation narratives, actually raising the level of consciousness of our audience and actually training people to read stories that go beyond a sensational headline.
I don't think technologies are purely neutral, but radio and the internet, those were military technologies. And then they gave us so much beauty and connection and also harm and trauma, right? And so it's like, what is the intention you're bringing to the technology? What are the histories you're invoking? Is so important.
We had to develop what I call an editorial imperative, where we said we are going to deconstruct crime reporting as it happens within journalism, where people see way more stories of violence than the number of violence that occurs in society. So you never have a feeling of safety. And I feel like by us coming out onto the scene and openly critiquing journalism and its role in community harm, we actually have made a difference in the way the entire Chicago media landscape covers violence. Because we used to just be telling people this is racist. This is racist coverage because Black people, brown people are not the only criminals. It's just y'all are not covering tax evasion. Y'all not covering securities fraud every night. Y'all not covering, it's like the types of crimes you are choosing to cover is telling a story about society where Black people and brown people are criminals. And that's a choice.
A culture that was so rich that it is now a commodity across the fucking globe. It is a commodity to the point that those who created it, who were literally bred to be a new people, are also told that we didn't have a culture. So there's a slippery slope we do when we try to do an origin that requires us to subsume and claim state to a land that was never made to be claimed state to.
I feel like freedom is feeling at home in my body and able to embrace all parts of myself and not edit myself depending on my surroundings. I think a lot of creative people were very observant, so just observing the way things are, the way things were when I was younger, I would make a lot of inferences on that, like even just, how people, a lot of times in my school, I might be the only Black person in my class, and so trying to fit in to the kids around me, like trying to make a messy bun with my permed hair, just like, it doesn't feel free the way that I was constricting myself often growing up to try to fit in, or then going to church with my grandma and, being surrounded by other Black people but feeling very different, like the way I was speaking or the things that I watched or was reading and, feeling very culturally different. So I think it's really just observing the way things were and the way I felt like I was supposed to be in order to fit in, because that felt like the goal versus mixing, my energy in with whatever the energy was.
It's really, for me, all about agency. How do I get to show up? And is that my choice? In all the spaces that I have to navigate, I have to decide what version of me gets to show up. And I feel like if I can get to a space where I don't have to think about that, that's what freedom is to me.
For me, it gets more conceptual than it is like tangible. I think of freedom in the way that I think and the things that I believe, because I definitely view myself as somebody that's still living within the constraints of modern day society. So I'm as free as I can be. So how I move around, what I decide for myself, how I decide for myself, timing, how I believe in time, how I look at the concept of time, questioning things. That's how I kind of view freedom, is the ability to question.
Freedom feels like longitude and latitude to me. It feels like infinite possibility. So when I feel my most free, it's when I get to make choices about how to eat and how to move, how to wake up, how to interact with my friends, how to create. Freedom feels like the ability to direct my own ship.
So my sun's sign, I'm Aquarius, and so I'm a daydreamer, which is great. It's a part of like manifestation. I've been doing it ever since I was a little kid. But a lot of times, it's like as I'm going through and living my experiencing life, it's almost like I have a split screen. And there is the reality that I'm living in, and then there's the reality that I'm like creating for myself. And then I look for the moments where both of those can kind of come together. But some of that is also a trauma response. And I had to learn that sometimes that daydreaming was me just trying to get out of my body. And so I've had to really practice coming back to my body, understanding that relationship between the spirit, the creator within me, but also being present in this body that I'm in right now. Despite all that we've been through as a diaspora, there is something just so beautiful about when Black people come together and create. Because I feel like creation operates in direct opposition of all of the violence and the hate that we see today. So I'm just like grateful to be here creating meaningful conversation with you guys. Like I'm just feeling so inspired by all that we're talking about, and I'm a very active listener, so there are moments where I'm just like, so I'm gonna journal about this right now. I've been journaling too, because that's important.
I'll tell you what freedom is to me. No fear. I mean, really, no fear. If I could have that half of my life, no fear. Lots of children have no fear. That's the only way I can describe it.
I define freedom in the same lineage that Nina Simone defines it. No fear, no boundaries. I think that there are fleeting moments where I experience a taste of freedom. I think that comes through others, through being around others. I think, again, when I think about my mom, when I think about Malcolm X, I think all of these folks did it in collective. I think that if and when I truly know freedom, I think it's gonna be done with other people. Yeah, I don't think that I am fully free.
Yeah, I'm like, freedom is a constant struggle, right? So some days I feel more free than others. And I think for me and for most people, it's just like, can we just exist?
I define freedom as moving with intention and purpose without allowing myself to feel the constraints of the status quo.
When we think of freedom, we think of this concept that we are all living in some sort of like utopia and there is a level of equality or equity involved. When freedom is uneven, freedom to me is an ocean. It's big, it's large. It's not a ladder. It's not something that you climb up and then you finally make it to that mountaintop. I think having these platitudes, being an artist, having this poetic language surrounding what freedom is, has lulled us into a sort of docile state, thinking that it'll come for us. It removes the action and removes the verb of what freedom can be. Freedom is jagged and hard. It's inconvenient. You have to earn it. You have to fight for it. And it's communal. It's not, you can have personal freedom, but without a society that reflects it, you won't get really far from it. You'll find yourself constricted again. It's like my homie puts it, we are post-apocalyptic people. We're constantly living after the apocalypse of many things. So we will always survive, and knowing that and allowing ourselves to live in that allowed us to have the, I think, most important currency that any creative could have, which is hope.
Goodbye.